Welcome back to Proper Madness. I'm happy to have you back if you're a returning listener. If you're a new listener, my name is Sabby, and I have a very unique perspective on mental health. I believe wholeheartedly that we can turn anything that we have been through and alchemize it into bettering ourselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. I also get to have the wonderful chance to speak to some amazing individuals, all very unique in their own stories from all around the world. They get to tell their lives, their stories, their hardships, and how they've overcome it. It helps you feel less alone, to know and understand that the way out is always through the eye of the storm, no matter how much we like to avoid it. Grab a cup of tea. If you're not a tea drinker, grab your coffee, and let's sit down and tune into ourselves so that we can learn to connect to other people. We never know the weight of our words and how they might help someone. Welcome back, everyone, to Proper Madness. Today, I have a new friend of mine on. Her name is Lauren Round. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. Pretty sure I am. But we met on X, Twitter, whatever the heck it's called now. And we became like friends on there. And then I just randomly asked her to pop on to my podcast because she has a very interesting story and she's very, very smart. So I'm going to be picking her brain a lot on this podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me. Lauren, I'm from England. I'm an online fitness coach and I have a background in psychology. So I went to uni to study psychology and then I went on to do a master's degree in health psychology. However, kind of coming away from the psychology path, now I'm pursuing the fitness path, but I'm still keeping elements of psychology in there.
What inspired you to kind of combine the two together? Because not a lot of people do that. Some people are just like, all right, fitness. And then some people are just like, all right, psychology. What made you decide, okay, I want to combine both?
Good question. Um, I think, like you've just said, too many people kind of separate like physical health and mental health, but they're actually combined. Like your physical health affects your mental health, and your mental health affects your physical health. Exercise and especially nutrition, mindset work that goes into, actually fixing your eating habits because people don't just eat because they're hungry. They eat, for emotional reasons, because they're bored, um, lots of other reasons that's why I think it deserves to treat the mind and body as one, I guess, and see how they affect each other rather than treating them separately.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that, right? They think that if they look perfect on the outside, that internally they feel great. Not at all. I told someone this the other day when I was at my leanest because I was like super into fitness because of my mental health, but then it stopped becoming about my mental health. And then it was just about how I looked. But when I looked my leanest and my best, I felt the worst inside.
Exactly. Yeah, like you can look away, you can look a certain way on the outside physically, but that's not to say that you are happy on the inside.
How do you feel when you work out and when you are in like what inspired you to get into fitness in the first place? Because I feel like for everyone that story is just so different and there's always just some sort of pivotal moment where you're like and because I mean you either enjoy fitness or you don't. I feel like there's a lot of people who are very you either enjoy working out properly or you just kind of you don't care. Um so what was it like for you? Like what inspired you to get into that?
Fitness has always been a part of my life since I was a teenager, I would say,
Mm.
because I come from quite a sporty family. So my parents and my siblings have always done sport and exercise. I started going to the gym when I think I was about 14 with my mum. And she really tried to encourage me to go for how it would make me feel.
Mm.
So that's how I got started. And then, yeah, I just loved how it made me feel like boosted my mood, made me feel good about myself. Um, and then it was only a few years after that, when I was a bit older, probably when I was about 17 or 18, that I got into weight training. I always wanted to lift weights, but it's obviously scary when you don't know what you're doing, and being a woman as well, like being the only female in the weights room, it's kind of daunting.
Mm. So I like that your mom was the one who inspired you to do that though, because my dad was the same with me. Um, but I fought him growing up. I just was like, no, I don't wanna. But
Yeah.
I always did sports too. And I think it's so hard that like when you're in a family like that does sports all the time, um, where you're like, okay, like I'll do all the things. Like I did soccer, football, I did soccer. My dad's from the UK, so like that was his thing. And
Yeah.
then um and then I did martial arts for a long time. And then I got into weight training when I was tw only 20, when I was 23 is when I finally was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. But for me, it was like I was severely out of shape and I didn't want to believe it. Like my dad, bless him, he was like trying to very softly tell me, "Hey, like if you work out, you're gonna feel a lot better about yourself, like mentally and emotionally." And I wonder if you had like the same thing that like when you start working out, I don't know if like especially lifting weights, there's a different type of emotional feeling and like release that comes from that as opposed to yeah, like, cardio and just walking. Um, what do you feel like it is for you? I know for me it's like I don't know, for me it's like if I'm having a shit day and I want to feel I just want to go do some deadlifts and just train legs that day. Um, but yeah.
Want to go and train legs and get all the aggression out, basically.
Yeah.
Go and go and smash some weights around. Because I guess it also makes you feel, like empowered. Like
Mm,
one to feel strong, but also to actually go into the weights room because not many women will go into the weight section because they don't know what they're doing or they feel out of place.
like when you're training clients and everything, what's like the biggest mental block that you see that people have with fitness and their mental health? Like what is it with like that you see the most of that you think, you'd like to that you'd like to touch on?
Fitness, so in terms of exercising and getting into weight training, I think what holds women back is um firstly like the knowledge of what weight training does for you because a lot of women want to lose weight and look smaller and toned. So they think that, they need to burn lots of calories, focus on cardio.
Mm,
But actually, if you want to look toned, then you should be lifting weights to actually tone your muscles. But then also, they're scared of actually going into the weight section because they're scared of what people think of them. So I think a bit of anxiety holds people back, because they haven't done it before or they're not sure what they're doing. So they get anxiety that people are staring at them, people are
mm,
judging them, when actually no one is looking at them. It's more it's more just in their mind. They're always trying to lose weight and shrink themselves. But again, they go down the restrictive route. So they think that they need to starve or, cut out carbs or cut out foods that they enjoy. So sweet foods, for instance. Um, and that takes its toll because if you're used to restricting your diet all the time, you're at risk for binge eating, um, low mood, doesn't make you feel good at all. So I think that's one of the things that people like women struggle with when it comes to nutrition.
mm. Have you had your own like struggles with that throughout your fitness journey at all?
Um, yeah, I have in the past, I was very restrictive, so always always in a calorie deficit when I didn't need to be. I've always been very slim. And yeah, I guess until you actually reflect and actually look back at your own journey, you don't realize how often like you are dieting or always trying to shrink yourself.
Mm,
But I wanted to, gain muscle, but I was always scared of eating more and gaining weight. Um, so that was a struggle. And then I've also struggled with, like stress eating,
yeah.
which again is, like linking your emotions and your mindset to your physical health. So when I was doing a master's degree, um, that was like a really stressful time for me, and I had some other things going on as well. Like I had some injuries in my Achilles, so I couldn't really go to the gym. That was dragging me down,
Mm.
and I was, yeah, kind of just binging
Yeah.
and turning to food for comfort. And I did that for a few months. And I gained about a stone.
Mm.
So nothing major. I nipped it in the bud quickly, but yeah, I can definitely see how that could have spiraled. Like if I'd have left that for a year, then it's hard to unpick these habits. But yeah, that's also something I've struggled with.
What was that moment for you where you were going down that binge eating path? Um, what made you go, okay, I should stop, like mentally? What was that moment for you?
To be truthful, it was a new year, so I'd probably been binging for from like August to December, like just in this horrible dark place. Um, and then I just made a promise to myself that, like on New Year's Eve, I was like, I can't, I can't let this keep happening.
Mm.
Like, I need to make a change. Um, so then in January of the next year, kind of like focused on some habits. So meditation. This is how I got started with meditation. Um, breath work, gratitude, just simple habits that people often overlook. Also journaling as well, that's a good one.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it really helps to just build self-awareness and work through like your emotions and stress rather than, going for biscuits or ice cream
Mm.
because yeah, that's a massive thing that people struggle with. Like they really desperately want to lose weight, but they don't really have the awareness to understand why they're eating in the first place.
Yeah. Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about like why you were in a dark place at that moment in time? Like what triggered the binge eating? Was it just the stress of the masters or was it like something else that was going on at that time?
I had anxiety, so
Mm.
this is something that I've recently been treated for. Like, I've been having therapy. Well, finished therapy now. But yeah, I guess at that time, um, I was constantly worrying. So obviously, if you're in physical pain, that's bad. Like, doesn't feel good. But then worrying about it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
And that's the same with anything like, stress, physical injuries. They're all stresses in themselves. But then when you've got like the constant worrying, it kind of makes everything feel 10 times worse, and it just drags everything out. So that's that's the place I was in at that time.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot, especially when you don't know why you're feeling the way that you're feeling and you don't understand why your injury has happened, like what the
Yeah,
solution is, you know? So that can be hard for anyone to deal with, especially anxiety. Anxiety is huge. I think like I know working out helped my anxiety a lot, but I liked what you said where like when you're in the gym, you sometimes like especially when you're first starting out or even if you still like struggle with anxiety, I still have my moments where like if someone's looking over or near me mentally, I'm like I have
yeah,
like 12 anxious thoughts. I'm like, am I doing this wrong or something? Like why I'm like why are they looking my direction?
yeah,
Or like you just feel judged. Like I know I joined a new gym about a year ago and I'd always like, been working out. I got into pole dancing as well. That's a crazy workout. But I hadn't started like lifting weights properly and like being more consistent with it up until like a few weeks ago. And well, it's helped me with pole dancing because now I have more strength. It's a different.
yeah,
But I noticed this week at the gym that like there are so many machines that like I fucking don't like I know how to use them in my old gym because I was very familiar with it,
yeah,
but you still have that anxiety of like well, I don't want to go over there, try to use this machine and look like an absolute like dumbass. You know, and then like
Yeah,
you realize like okay, but like everyone goes through that. It's almost like I think everyone has those anxieties of like so much in life of I don't want to do this because I feel like I'm gonna look like this. And
yeah,
um so I get what you mean with that, especially with anxiety. You said you recently finished therapy with anxiety, which I think is first of all huge. Most people go to therapy forever and never
yeah.
stop, which is like a huge thing anyways. Oh,
Um,
there's a question in there you can answer.
yeah, I'm just trying to unpick what the question was. Yeah, so I have just finished therapy recently. Uh, I had I started with a low intensity cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a common treatment for anxiety. So it's looking at your cognition, so thoughts, and also behaviors. So thoughts obviously affect your behaviors. Um, but the low intensity didn't really do much. I was okay for a while, and then I kind of like slipped back into whole old habits. So then I had a higher intensity um cognitive behavioral therapy, and that's been really helpful just to help me, like become more aware of my thoughts, the things that I worry about, and how to actually change those thinking patterns because um yeah, you can do like the meditation, the journaling, go on walks, you can work out, you can do all those things. I was doing all those things, but that doesn't necessarily change your thinking patterns
Mm.
and the way that you cope in situations. Um, so that's what I've been working on in the recent months, and it's been very helpful.
I think a lot of people don't realize how much just your thoughts control like how you act. Because
Mhm.
even with I don't know, like if you reframe your thoughts, it just reframes how you act and like how you show up.
Yeah.
Um, what have been some of the biggest differences that you've seen after doing that, generally?
Biggest difference is in how I feel physically. So last year when my anxiety was at its worst, I had like no appetite, struggle with my sleep, um, had a bad stomach, and I had to see professionals about that, but didn't realize it was anxiety at the time, so that was quite distressing. Which again shows, how your mental health impacts your physical body. Like they're all related. I don't think people realize how much anxiety like affects your confidence and how you see yourself and how you live your life because obviously if you're always worrying about a lot of different things, then that's really going to hold you back from the things that you want to do and the things that you need to do. So that's been one of the biggest things. Just like more at peace with with everything. So just like day-to-day life, how I think. Um, yeah, I'd say they are the main things.
Hmm. I like what you said where like people don't realize how much anxiety can affect just like literally everything in your life.
Mm.
Was there a moment in your life where like anxiety held you back from something that you wanted to do and like how did you deal with that? Like how did you move past it?
Um, I think when I went on a backpacking trip
Hmm.
um around Southeast Asia for 5 months.
Oh, that's really cool.
This was yeah,
Mm.
this was towards the end of 2022
Okay.
until last April. And I was really nervous about that. But I went with a few friends as well. And even I was all right for the first few months, but then after, I think it was probably after about 2 months, anxiety was kicking in there.
Mm.
Um, and I didn't know this at the time, but now I know it's because, because of all the uncertainty of traveling. Because when you've got anxiety, you don't like uncertainty. That's what you hate. So
Yeah.
that's why you worry so much because you're trying to control, everything that you're uncertain of. Um, so I think what was happening at that time is obviously traveling in itself it's amazing. It was amazing, but it's also I'm like a person who plans things out. I like routine, so I think I was completely just thrown out of my comfort zone there. Um, and then I was also just worrying too much about the future. Like what am I going to do after traveling? Because obviously I'd just finished uni then. Um, this was like carefree, uh, just living life out of the back. But then I guess towards the end of the trip, I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life now? Um, which is obviously a very big question that no one can answer.
Yeah.
Like, you're not just going to decide what to do with your life. It doesn't work that way. You
Mm.
kind of just forge your path as you go. Yeah, it was a good experience. It was very enlightening. I'll say that.
Well, yeah, living out of a first of all, a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just a lot of people would be too bougie for their own good that they wouldn't even bother with the backpack, myself included. I I'd be like, nope, can't be asked to just live through a backpack. I'm sure I could do it. I'm sure I could do it, but 5 months is like it's commitment and it is kind of I can see how it would be enlightening though, right? Because you're not I think when like if I go on any vacations, I'm very focused on how I look actually and like what I'm gonna wear and how I'm gonna show up. I'm
Yeah,
not really there for the experience. When you just have like a backpack, you're just there for the experience. You're not
yeah,
paying attention to what outfit am I gonna wear for the day and where are we going, So um I think that makes sense though that you felt that way because you didn't have all these things outside of yourself to distract you from
mm,
like, what you were thinking and feeling.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so I can imagine how that can be that can be very enlightening, yes. I what why were you so worried about, like, what am I gonna do, um, like, after the trip? Did you? Because it sounds like you're someone who's very, like, high achieving, um
Yeah.
and so, like, as you're speaking, it's like I'm noticing that I'm the same way too. I'm like you. I have to have like, I get anxiety because there's uncertainty. I think
Mm,
you explained that so well. Um, Anxiety is just an uncertainty because if you plan everything, it's because you wanna control it. Um,
yeah.
and I'm like that too. I just wanna control it. I had
Yeah.
an interesting moment at the gym actually last evening where I just had so much random anxiety just based off of one interaction with the person that like I've never met this human being in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and so because it was outside of my control, I had anxiety. Oh, like if you're a high achiever, do you think that naturally you just crave control?
Um, yes, and I also think if you're a high achiever, you're always, like striving for more and you hold yourself to a very high standard, which I guess means putting yourself out there more, trying new things, which I guess is anxiety provoking
Mm,
or can cause you to worry about things. And I think that's what I was anxious about when I was traveling because I knew that I didn't want to come back and just work a 9 to 5. Like, I
yeah.
had an idea of what I wanted to do. I guess I was kind of itching to get home and start it, which I think Instagram's getting better. Like, I've noticed lots of creators and influencers are, like being more authentic and realistic. So, like showing like their down days or like girls are showing real angles of their body without
Yeah.
posing. Um, and I really like that. I think that's empowering for women because it's very easy to, go onto Instagram, just scroll, compare yourself to everyone else, and just make yourself feel like shit.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if, you're a young girl or if you're a woman, like everyone does it and it affects everyone. Um, so that's what I'm seeing on Instagram at the moment, which I am enjoying, to be fair.
Yeah, no, yeah, I like the videos that you've been posting lately. Because they're so true. Especially I really relate to like the way you reframe things, right? Like you take one thought and belief and then you reframe it into something better. And I'm sitting there going, that's smart. Um, because because you're showing something visually, but then you're also putting like, okay, if you're thinking this way, here's a better way to look at it. And
Yeah,
it's good. It's almost like you're taking your CBT that like so now that I know, it's cool to
yeah,
see that. It's like you're taking your CBT and you're doing putting that on like what you're creating, which is honestly so wonderful, you know?
yeah. I guess I am like taking bits of what I've learned and trying to present it, in a way that's digestible.
Mm. Yeah, which is smart. I do the opposite. I go too deep too quick. And people don't know how to digest it. They're like, "Wait, like let me sit with this."
I
I
mean,
just
I do love going, like going deep into things, but yeah, I guess I'm trying to, yeah, make my content, like well understood
mm.
so that it can help someone.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to do it. Um,
Mm,
it is like you took like what you went through, your anxiety, and you took it and started turning it into a way to like, fuel your purpose in a way and create the things that you want to
yeah,
create, which is wonderful. Like not a lot of people do that. I think there's a difference between people who struggle and are going through something and just let it be separate. Whereas
mm,
some people like you, right, and like me, you take it and you go, oh no, okay, let me make something from this. Let me do something with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that's powerful because one, you can, like use what you've been through and see it as an opportunity.
I'm also a high achiever by nature. I was
Mm,
talking to my dad about this the other day. And I don't know if I don't think it's like a European versus American thing, because I thought about that too. There's a different mentality in America versus Europe. Um, and I think my dad always raised me because, the and the Brits are very like no nonsense, right? There's no room for like, there's no room for let me hold your feelings. It's more just like cut and
yeah,
dry, just get to it and move forward, right? It's like you have a shit day and they're like, right, okay, on to the next.
yeah,
You process it, you do. There's no not processing it, but in that comes that strength with I think sometimes with American culture, it's very much like almost like the perpetual victim mentality, right? The little too soft sometimes. They're like you have a shit day, like, all right, let's talk about it for like 10 days. And I'm going,
yeah,
no. I'm like, no. But I think like if you are a high achiever naturally, my dad says that like there's two different types of people in this world. Like you either make something from what you're going through or you just allow it to like let it take you.
yeah,
And I've been actively looking for like a new job to leave the company that I've been at for 10 years and nothing's hit through. My dad he goes, you know what? I'm not worried about you. I go, why? He goes, well, you just kind of get on with it. You don't like sit in one place. You just kind of keep going. And I think that's the difference. And that's what like I'm gathering from you as well is like, you don't just sit in it. You're like, all right, I'll sit in it for a little bit, but then eventually I do have to just like keep going forward. There's my brother and I have more of like the and I'm starting to wonder if this is a thing. My brother and I have more of like a different mindset where we take our adversity and move forward. And then my sister, not so much. You know, my
Yeah.
sister tends to kind of sit in it and live in it. And there's no like, but she had a more Americanized upbringing. So I don't know if that's the same. And I don't know if I'd put that in there, but I wonder if that's what it is. Like the high achievers, naturally, you just kind of get on with it. But there is that anxiety and that pressure of, well, it has to be perfect. Like with the TikTok thing, like they got taken down. And I went, "Fuck." It's like, I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain it. It just like lights a fire under you, and you're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like a sports thing too. You know, if you grew up in competitive sports or you do sports, you naturally have that grit of, I don't know, to keep moving forward. So,
Yeah. And I guess like you just touched on the like perfectionism there.
mm,
I guess when you are a high achiever, obviously it's great. You can keep pushing yourself, achieve things that, you've always wanted to. Um, then I guess it does come with a downfall, but that's like anything.
mm,
Um, I guess someone who's not a high achiever, maybe, they don't have the strengths of constantly pushing, striving, but they're probably more relaxed,
yeah.
and they probably have less stress and beat themselves up less than, someone who's always pushing for more. I think that's something that I've been working on recently, just, like just to appreciate where I am right now and like just the things that I've been through and everything that I've built. Um, actually just appreciate it instead of, like constantly thinking where I want to be
Mm,
next year, who I want to be, because kind of just takes the fun out of what you're doing.
yeah.
And do you find that?
All the time. I think like when you're naturally like that, you don't you seldom stop to think, okay, let me
Mm,
appreciate what's around me. Um, and you it's like it's because you're naturally like you have this little bit of like competitiveness inside of you, right? And so you kind of have to turn it down and go, how do I slow down and get grounded? Because you just it's like almost built in you to not be grounded and to just keep going. And I was struggling with that. I find it's like I'm out very outside of my body and I'm not inside of my body when I'm in that mode.
mm,
And then it's hard for me to connect to myself and stay grounded and clear-headed and go, okay, let me just appreciate like what is happening now. I don't know
yeah,
if you've found this, but have people been like, I mean, because my siblings say this to me all the time, like, you're so successful, you have so much going for you. And like I stop and I look at them like, yeah, but no, like I'm not where I want to be. And then
yeah,
and then they go, no, but like stop and look at everything that you've done. And so I think to your point, like we don't stop and do that. We kind of go, no, well, if I'm not where I want to be, then therefore like I don't see myself in the way that I want to see myself, which is
yeah, exactly. And we don't, like give ourselves credit for all the things that we have achieved because, like you just said, we're always thinking about who we want to be,
mm,
how we aim to get there, so we don't actually like stop and think.
yeah.
But how do you like ground yourself and get back in touch with your body?
It's a pole, strangely enough, pole dancing. Because you can't, you can think of like, what next trick am I gonna do? But I find like with dance, it's different. I'm not thinking about like with lifting, it's great, but you're thinking, all right, how many reps do I have to do sometimes?
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go till when I feel tired and then I'll start counting, but that's because I'm a psycho. So But but with pole, once you learn like all the things that you need to learn, and I think it's with anything in life, even sports, right? Like once you learn the technique enough, your body has this point where like you're not thinking and you're
Mm,
just doing and you're in like almost like a flow state. That's one way for me. Also walking outside, like getting into nature if I can.
yeah.
Um, it depends on like in California you have great weather all the time, so I can do that. There's no excuse. I just don't do
Uh,
it sometimes. Um, that's one way. Or meditation. I think we neglect meditation a lot. Like a lot of people don't want to do it,
yeah.
but it's a really good way to just like all your energy is like da 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 like out here to just bring it in.
Yeah.
Um, is huge. And then what else grounds me? If I do something I enjoy, I think even like editing or making my tea times because I'm connected to myself technically in a way. I don't know if it's slightly narcissistic, but like I'm like staring at myself, editing. That and music. Music is huge. Just like getting in my car and listening to music just helps ground me. What about you?
Yeah. I love, well, I don't love, but meditation is a
Yeah.
good one for me. Um, and you just said that people don't want to do it, and I don't really want to meditate, but I want to get the feelings that meditation gives me.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a massive one for me. I do that every morning. Um, Nature walks, I love those. Mm, Playing the piano.
I didn't know you played the piano. Now I like you even more.
I don't have a lot of time for the piano these days. However, because I used to have lessons, but I've stopped those now, and I'm kind of just playing for fun, I guess,
Hmm.
or just to get into a flow state, like you just mentioned there. Um, what else? Mm, I guess like just being with friends, just being able to just switch off from everything.
Yeah.
That
And I like that. Yeah, same. I'm hanging out with friends today and I'm like looking forward to it because they're the friend. It's like you have to spend time with the friends that light you up though, like not the ones that drain the shit out of you. Um,
yeah.
Otherwise, like, hanging out with them just feels like work and you're like, oh God. As like, what would you say to people who are high achievers and have a difficult time like slowing down and having like that anxiety? Like what would be the advice that you'd give them from your point of view? Like what are some things that you think would help?
Um, this is a really simple one, but I think having like a gratitude practice. So I think it's more powerful if you write it down. Um, but just giving yourself, like a couple of minutes in the morning, that's all it takes, just to actually think of the things that you're grateful for, but also feel it too. Like don't just like write random things like, oh, I'm grateful for, I don't know, coffee. But you're just writing for the sake of it. Like
Yeah.
actually write something that you're grateful for. And I guess like just think about it and feel it in your body. Um, I think that's a good way to, like appreciate what you've got, which is the opposite to, always thinking about where you want to go.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and I think actually making the time for like self-care and like seeing your friends, doing fun things. Like it's easy to, just get caught up in work, like just have things scheduled all week and then you don't actually schedule time for yourself. And then that's when I notice like my mental health starts to decline. Like if I haven't made any weekend plans or haven't really spoken to anyone or haven't, like done the basic self-care. So like little morning routine, like little walks throughout the day. Yeah, so I think really having those things in your schedule helps massively. What is like the future? What does the future look like for you? Like where do you want to go with your podcast
Um,
and your socials?
um, it's crazy that you're asking me that because, like, I think was it a couple days ago on Twitter, I posted like this long post, and ironically now it's taking off. And
Mm,
I had said that, like, for me, my podcast, like, I think for a long time I wanted it to become famous or like take off.
yeah.
But now it's more of a place of like, I just enjoy connecting with people, and I'm very
Mm,
picky with who comes on
yeah.
because for me, I want it to be like a safe space for people to take away, like, you can turn any adversity that you've been through into your art and your purpose. And
Yeah.
that's like, I think why that's there. And so for me, like, I would like for it to help as many people as it possibly can, but I don't have like a goal anymore of like I want to hit X or I want to hit X, Y, and Z. Same with my socials. I think like that I don't want to say like that dream died, but like that need or like the craving for like it must hit this many followers, just went out the window. I was like, I'm just doing it for the sake of enjoying it." I do sometimes still have, like, those moments, like, on TikTok where, like, I'm stuck in the 200 view jail when I'm just like, "Fuck this." Because like, I work so it's different. Because like, when you work so hard on something that you enjoy, you want the reward and almost, like, the validation of, like, "Yes, like, I know that my stuff is good because people are validating me, but if you worked really hard for it and you put it out there and it's complete and it's done and it's gotten the message out there, then that's just a success by itself." So
Yeah.
that's like more the mentality I'm trying to adopt with things. But yeah, my podcast, I've always wanted to just be a safe space for people to feel comfortable. Um, like, I can if I want to have, like, huge big name people, to sure, but, like, are they necessarily, like, the right people to have on sometimes? No. You know? Like, that would be cool one day if that could happen. I'm not opposed to it. I've done it before in the past, like, I reached out to a few, but, like, those people for some reason sit on, like, this high horse, um,
Mm, yeah.
where just because they have X amount of followers, they're above you, and I'm going, "No, you're a person. That's it. You're
Yeah.
another person. We're made of the same flesh and bone. You're no
Literally.
different than me. You're not God. So like what? You know?
That's such a vibe.
Mm.
I really like that, you get people on here to talk about, I guess, like real problems, but
Yeah.
also how that can relate to other people and help them.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, so you want to tell people where they can find you on social media and if they resonate with what you said, like where to reach you?
yes, you can reach me on just on Instagram at the moment. So it's Fitness underscore. Um, got a few things in the works, potentially a newsletter or a YouTube. However, Instagram is the main place right now.
Oh my God, a YouTube would be so I would be so cool. That'd be so cool for you to do a YouTube.
Yeah, I really want to, but I'm doing one thing at a time.
Good.
Trying to,
Yep, as we should. We shouldn't
yeah.
as we should. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate this conversation. It was amazing.
It was. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you ever want to chat more about anything that this podcast is about, you know where to find me. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and good old TikTok. And be sure to stay tuned for my Tea Time with Sabby episodes. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube or whatever streaming platform you happen to be listening to this on, I encourage you to follow, like, subscribe, and rate this so that it pushes it out to whoever else might need it.